I think the recording is starting as we're opening, something. Vocabulary, magnificent, magnificent. Oh, it is early. Magnificent week seven samurai. A little shout out to one of the extra credit movies you can write about. Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece. I mean, really, it's a masterpiece. But anyway, what are the words this week? These are the words this week: counterargument, congruent, coincide, symphony, synthetic, relevant, dire, maladroit, I like that word, lackadaisical, and boorish. Now, a counterargument, this is a noun. It's a viewpoint or it's a statement that opposes an argument. So as it says here, think of it like the rhetorical equivalent of a counterpunch. If you say something and it's a really good point, like students have too much homework, you shouldn't give so much homework, and I counter it with saying, well, you don't do the other homework anyway, so what's the matter if I give you a little more? Boy, that'd be kind of snarky and mean thing to say. Maybe that's not a great example. If you said something like, it's good to give kids all the toys they want on Christmas, I might say something like, but doesn't that spoil them and create a lot of pollution and a lot of unnecessary plastic waste? I don't know, things like that. You have a point, you have a counterpoint. Now, I love this illustration of the boxer because it's such a good counterpunch. The guy has the overhand right to the head. It's a big, kind of solid punch that he really thinks is going to land hard. The other guy dodges, ducks down, and lands a smaller punch. It's a right hook to the body, but it's going to land really well because the first boxer, never is going to see this one coming. And the way he stretches out, it's really going to hurt. It's a really good shot. That makes me think about argument. They have their big point. If you can find a way to get around their point and to land something else, it will land twice as hard in your argument. All right, congruent. This is a math thing. Usually it's used in geometry to discuss shapes which are the same. They don't seem so, like in this illustration here, the ABC versus the EFD. They're the same triangle. They're just presented at different angles. But it can be used to describe any two things that agree or match really well with one another. You can have two different ideas that are congruent with one another. It's the same idea. They're just maybe phrasing it differently. Or you have a friend who has a position on something, and your position is actually the same one you just hadn't talked about before. Those are congruent ideas. Anyway, let's go coincide. Coincide is a verb. It's a little bit like congruent. While congruent is an adjective, coincide is a verb. To coincide is to occupy the same space at the same time. This can be physical space, like during class we're in the same room together. This place in time where we're alive in the 21st century, or going to be opinions, like how we all think my class is the best. I'm sure most of you don't think that. That's okay. That's fine. Hell, I don't think that on many days. But I have these little two birds here. Anytime you do a Google search for a definition visually, these two little birds pop up. So what are other words for coincide? Concur, correspond, agree, accord, tally. I don't think that's really quite right. Harmonize, that's pretty good. Match, fit, conform, dovetail. I really like that dovetail one a lot. All right, a symphony. A symphony is a noun. It's a large musical composition intended for many instruments. Now, where you find yourself using it in general conversation usually isn't necessarily to talk about a large group of musicians or a work drawn up for them. And when people say we're going to the symphony, they really should be saying it's the symphony orchestra. They're using symphony as an adjective there. Although the actual adjective form of symphony is symphonic, but that's a whole other thing. But it's often used non-literally to indicate a lot of different things working together to create something beautiful. You can see there, my gosh, I don't know, 80 instruments in this. This is quite a large symphonic orchestra, but they're all working in conjunction. They all coincide in their goal. Their feelings on this are congruent, that they all want to make a beautiful piece of music together. As a result, it all comes together really well. When class is really singing along, it's like a symphony. There's 40 kids in class, there's the instructor, there's the materials, and yet somehow it's all coming together to create one beautiful moment, which is a really special thing. All right, synthetic. Oh my God, this picture. So synthetic is an adjective. It describes a product or a material that is man-made and not of the natural world. It can also be used as a noun to label the thing itself which was been created. So usually you think of like a plastic as a synthetic. Usually you think of polyester. Synthetic leather isn't leather at all. It's plastic that has been made to look like it. It could also be made out of like vegetable proteins, things like that. But It's not made out of a cow. It's a synthetic. People can seem synthetic. They can seem plasticky and fake in how they talk to you. Now, that is literally a synthetic person in that picture. That's one of the world's most sophisticated androids. You can see interviews with them on TV. They are flat out terrifying. I'm not sure I really recommend watching them. It is straight up nightmare fuel. All right, relevant. This is an adjective. If something is relevant, it concerns what is currently being discussed or dealt with. If something is relevant, it has an impact on or is somehow about what is going on. Now, the opposite of this would be irrelevant. If something is irrelevant, it has nothing to do with what's going on. So relevant has everything to do with it. Irrelevant has nothing to do with it. It's not really in between. It's a real extreme all or nothing. Now, I love XKCD comics. They're really great. This one's pretty good. Oh, that reminds me of this XKCD. You see, there's a relevant XKCD for absolutely every situation. Oh, yeah? But there is an XKCD about relevant XKCDs. He says, of course there is. We're in it. And then when you look at the computer screen, you can see he was actually reading the one that they're in. So it's kind of a meta joke, but not bad. Dire. Lots of comics on this episode. So dire is an adjective. To be disastrous or extremely serious, usually with almost deadly results. It's a desperate situation. If you had a terrible grade in class and you knew that bringing home that grade would get you in huge trouble, you are in a dire situation. You're like, oh my gosh, if I bring home one more bad grade, I'm getting grounded for the rest of my life. Well, that is a dire situation. I do like this comic quite a bit. I like simply drawn comics. I think they're really funny. We're still stuck on this mattress, Junior. This is sure a dire situation. It's a mattress of life or death. It's a pun on a matter of life or death, but to be stuck in the middle of the ocean, that is indeed a dire situation because it looks like you're probably not going to make it out of there. But I guess at least they're comfortable because they're on a mattress, so there is that. Lackadaisical, more comics. So lackadaisical is one of my favorite words. It's an adjective. It means a lack of interest, to not care, and to be lazy and not just put forth any effort whatsoever. I had this feeling like I'd already used this word this year, but then I couldn't find it. And a student told me I hadn't, but because I'm the opposite of lackadaisical, I care so much that now I'm paranoid about it. But anyway, as an example of lackadaisical, if a student was asked to write a big persuasive essay and they just wrote down, sometimes, well, that'd be very lackadaisical. Often someone's efforts display a certain lackadaisicality. That would be the noun form. You just don't care. You do not even minimum really. You just kind of whatever. Now, here's a weird thing. I was looking up comics. And this comic, Sherman's Lagoon, which I remember from when I was in high school, kept popping up. So this one, Sherman, I will teach you to live the way of the ninja lantern shark. And he says, okay. It's a Zen approach to living a holistic life. Gotcha. We focus on the whole being, the psychological, the physical, and the social. What about the lackadaisical? I believe you have that covered. So he's saying he's already lazy. We don't need to cover how to be lazy. Now, here's why I mentioned this Sherman's Lagoon thing. This is weird. Next comic, also Sherman's Lagoon. And it gets even weirder. Okay, this word's boorish. This comic strip used the word boorish. But there was another comic, also of Sherman's Lagoon, that also used boorish. Very strange. Anyway, boorish is an adjective. It's an unmannered, it's to behave in a way that is unmannered, crude, or insensitive. All right, that's what it would describe. So if someone had a boorish streak in him and they tend to chew with their mouth open while saying terrible, rude things, spraying out of their mouth and onto the poor soul they're offending as they're offending them. Think about bad table manners. Think about being rude, not shaking hands when you're supposed to, not tucking in your shirt for a job interview, things like that. Just you're kind of sloppy and rude and gross. That's all boorish behavior. It's offensive, and it's offensive in almost a lazy way. So Sherman is often called boorish in the comics, particularly by his friend Fillmore, who's a sea turtle. Evidently, I went down a real rabbit hole looking these up. Anyway, I do like this joke, though. Check out this stolen email that Fillmore sent a while back. Apparently, he thinks you're a boorish oaf. He says, is that like a Keebler oaf? Elf. And no. Anyway, so vocabulary. This is my favorite GIF of all time. Miss Douglas gave it to me. Maladroit. It's an adjective. It means clumsy, inept, and unskilled. When it came to dancing, he was hopelessly maladroit and kept stepping on his date's toes. Now, it's not really fair to have this clip from the UK office because that's not maladroit. That's amazing. Look at those moves. It's incredible. I've made this deal with students in the past. If you come in and you do that dance, I'll give you extra credit. Like you have to do that he's got going on there. If you do, you get extra credit. Those are the words of the week. We're ending it with a burst of extra credit. How much extra credit? Let's tell you. If you come and you do that dance in front of the class, I'll give you 10 points. 10 points extra credit. So good day, good luck, good night whenever you're reading this, and I'll see you then.